On the International Space Station ISS, there are simultaneously 3 American and 3 Russian astronauts. At this time on Earth, a conflict escalates to the level of a nuclear threat, and authorities on each side issue orders to destroy their opponents. The creation of the ISS symbolized peaceful coexistence and collaboration between the USA and Russia after the end of the Cold War. The station is primarily used as a research center. 2 new astronauts, Kira and Christian, arrive on board the ISS aboard the Soyuz rocket without any incidents. After docking, Christian shares a story about a soft toy given to him by his youngest daughter. Upon arrival, they meet the other crew members, Gordon, Veronica, Nikolai, and Alexei. Veronica, who has been on the station for 50 days, gives the newcomers advice on adapting to microgravity. Gordon escorts Kira to her living module, discussing preferences for sleeping in microgravity and the limited communication capabilities with Earth. He also mentions a key that can lock personal items, in case Kira worries about someone using her things without permission. Kira is also involved in researching mice in microgravity, with Alexei as her partner. Every crew member is required to maintain their physical fitness by visiting the gym. In the evenings, everyone gathers in the common room, where they share their thoughts on life on Earth and express hopes for a prompt return home. During her first visit to the International Space Station, Kira enters a special section from which a magnificent view of Earth can be seen, a sight only 500 people have experienced. When it's time to rest, Kira can't sleep and feels fear. Veronica notices this and comforts Kira, reminding her that it's common to feel anxious on the first day. However, Kira is troubled by another issue: why Christian is sleeping without a sleeping bag. At the start of a new work shift, Kira discovers that the internet connection is gone on all computers. She decides to look at Earth again, and a terrifying scene unfolds before her eyes. Explosions are visible everywhere. Initially thinking these are hallucinations, Kira asks others to come and look. They suspect that it might be volcanic eruptions, but are surprised by their number. Nikolai tries to establish communication with the command center, but to no avail. The internet is completely down, and all crew members feel fear. Veronica even offers Gordon some vodka to calm down. Meanwhile, Gordon receives messages marked classified. Nikolai hears the noise and asks Gordon what the response was, but Gordon pretends it was just a random sound. A conflict has occurred between the USA and Russia, and currently, an investigation into the involvement of other countries is underway. All American participants on the ISS are ordered to cease all experiments and are given a new task to take control of the station at all costs. During a discussion of this order with American colleagues, Gordon tries to understand the rationale behind these actions, but suddenly, there is a brief power outage, which is soon restored. Christian suggests that the cause might have been a pulse from a warhead explosion. It is expected that communication will be restored within 24 hours, and new instructions may arrive by that time. Veronica begins repairing the station since the internal propulsion is lost, and without supplies from Earth, the station risks being destroyed. Alexei suggests using the Soyuz spacecraft to get closer to Earth, which might enhance the signal and help call for assistance, as the communication antenna on the ISS is damaged. Gordon decides to go out into open space to repair it himself. Saying goodbye, he shares a kiss with Veronica, and the Russian cosmonauts are absent. Christian expresses surprise that the Russian cosmonauts did not offer their help in the repairs, which seems suspicious, but Gordon trusts Veronica. After exiting into space, Gordon sees Earth engulfed in flames and asks Kira to prevent others from approaching the windows so they do not see the horrifying scene. Gordon checks the pressure in his suit and slightly reduces it to avoid accidentally sticking to the station's hull. He carefully moves toward the antenna. Meanwhile, Christian meets Alexei, who complains about feeling unwell, which makes him frequently visit the bathroom. When Alexei goes to the bathroom again, Christian watches the door. As soon as Christian walks away, Alexei begins to suspiciously peek outside. Meanwhile, Kira inquires about Gordon's relationship with Veronica. Gordon shares that he first met her at the station. Alexei, taking wire cutters, prepares to cut a cable while Gordon is repairing equipment against the backdrop of the planet engulfed in flames. Alexei struggles with an internal conflict as Gordon has become a friend, but the mission demands sacrifices. Suddenly, the connection between Kira and Gordon cuts off. Gordon tries to reach the handrails, but the safety tether is too short, forcing him to detach it to make the jump. Meanwhile, Christian runs to check the wiring but finds no faults. Nikolai has access to the station's external video cameras, which he activates to observe Gordon. Gordon examines the communication sensor, which appears to be in perfect condition. He realizes the antenna could not have broken and screams in anger that they have been lied to. Trying to return to the ISS, Gordon faces Nikolai's harsh decision, who, with pain on his face, lets him go. Christian noticed Gordon floating lifelessly in space near the ISS. The women hurried to the compartment to fetch a spare rescue rope. Kira wanted to go out into space to understand the situation, but Christian urgently asked her not to do so, fearing for his safety if he remained the only American on board. At the same time, Veronica approached Alexei and Nikolai, who admitted they had been ordered to take over the station by any means necessary. Veronica was shocked, but Nikolai was convinced that the Americans had received the same order. Despite Alexei's and Nikolai's refusal to help, Veronica wanted to save Gordon from suffocating in open space. Christian assured her that the Russians likely had the same order and that it was important for them to stick together. Their conversation was interrupted by Veronica, who asked Kira to step aside to discuss something confidential. She suggested exchanging personal keys to the storage, hinting at the need to access one of the American lockers, but refused to specify which one. Kira pretended the key was lost, but Veronica insisted on an answer, asking if the American government had threatened their lives. Kira denied any threats. Veronica revealed that Kira was not the only bioengineer on board. Alexei was working on developing a medicine for radiation sickness. In the event of a possible war on Earth, having such a medicine could be a decisive factor. Kira disclosed information about the order to Veronica, and Veronica confirmed that the Russians had the same order, which resulted in Nikolai and Alexei causing Gordon's death. Veronica planned to distract them, and for this, she needed an American key so that Kira could open Alexei's storage, where important records and a sample with a red label were kept. After this, Kira would need to evacuate from the station, which would soon burn up in the Earth's atmosphere, but she still had a chance to save humanity. The women exchanged keys and began to execute the plan. Veronica uses a soldering station and starts supplying gas, which Nikolai notices. He warns her because the pipes contain pure oxygen, and any interference could lead to an explosion on the station. Nikolai calls Alexei for help, but Veronica orders them to keep their distance. Kira takes samples with a red cap and asks Christian to find the radiation sickness medicine in the zero compartment, to which Christian responds that no such compartment exists, suggesting that Veronica lied. The situation escalates when Christian unexpectedly attacks Veronica and knocks her out, then plans to hide in the waste disposal unit and wait for communication to be restored. Kira wants to help Veronica, but Christian assures her that Veronica could not have survived since he seriously injured her, and he had no other choice. At the same time, Nikolai wants to avenge his friend and kill the opponents, while Alexei reminds him that they also killed their friend. But for Nikolai, it's not just about following orders, it's a duty. Nikolai arms himself with a screwdriver and sets out to search for the Americans as the world on Earth sinks deeper into chaos and flames. In the meantime, Alexei finds Gordon, who has managed to cling to the station's elements. He quickly hands Gordon a connector cable, saving his life. Nikolai suspects the Americans might be hiding among the waste, and when Christian deliberately makes noise by throwing an object, Nikolai follows the sound. Kira tries to find a new hiding place but accidentally runs into Alexei, who helps her hide. Soon, a conflict arises between Alexei and Nikolai, escalating into a fight, but Gordon intervenes, learning of Veronica's death. In anger, he attempts to attack Nikolai, and as a result of the confrontation, both inflict fatal wounds on each other. Only 2 Americans and 1 Russian survive. As the ISS approaches a critically dangerous altitude, it becomes increasingly at risk. Walking through the corridor, Kira discovers a sign pointing to 0 which proves Veronica was right. She wants to ask Christian why he lied but finds that he has already taken the samples and prepared a spacesuit. At that moment, the oxygen supply is cut off. Preparing to report the problem, Kira sees a knife with Christian. Kira informs Alexei about the lack of air, and to attract attention, she knocks on a can 3 times. Then she asks for the knife, ostensibly to make a sandwich, to which he reacts suspiciously. Christian reluctantly agrees to hand over the knife but eventually gives it to Kira. Then, Christian asks Alexei to leave the compartment for at least a minute. Kira, guessing Christian's treacherous intentions, uses a phrase they used upon arriving at the ISS, signaling Alexei to stay. Christian confesses that he was the one who disabled a life support system, claims he knows how to restore it. Alexei counters, stating he also knows how to do it. Suddenly, Christian attacks with the knife. Kira uses a rope to neutralize Christian. When communication is fully restored, the authorities from the USA and Russia demand a report on the mission completion. However, the duo decides to go their own way. They board the Soyuz spacecraft, turn off the radio, and begin their descent back to Earth, leaving behind questions and orders. The story concludes with their descent, marking the end of this intense adventure.